Omagyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurnitanjena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Oh, I've just noticed we have a lot of people in the waiting room. Sorry about that. So Dandavat, welcome. Okay. Sorry to keep you all waiting in the waiting room. Was getting caught up in discussing some Prapanajivanamrita verses. So welcome everyone. Our Upadeśāmṛta Saturday reading discussion. And we have reached verse number 6 of Upadeśāmṛta. This is very important instruction for all practitioners. The importance of avoiding criticism, particularly of Vaishnavas. And here, this is what's being focused on here is the importance of avoiding superficial faults, right? Oh, that reminds me, I think I mentioned that I was going to share a link to Bhaktivinoda Thakur's article about fault finding. I will definitely do that today because it's so relevant to this verse. So matter and spirit, right? These are two things of categorical, of a categorical different nature. And by that, I mean to say, and this verse is telling us that someone may have a particular material nature, which is faulty, but that does not compromise their spiritual quality, right? Their spiritual qualification. So someone may be very degraded even from a material perspective, or maybe very uneducated or unattractive or whatever it may be, annoying, may have, many different material faults, may struggle with addictions, maybe all kinds of things. But beyond that, they may still have a strong spiritual awakened aspect to them. And so this verse is giving that caution, right? That if we focus in on the material defects of the Vaishnavas, this will be damaging to our own growth, right? And our Gurudev has made the point, if we want to grow in our spiritual life, then we need to appreciate, we need to enter more and more into a spirit of appreciation for others. This is something that is actually very fundamental to our progress, right? And very fundamental to the whole spirit of Krishna consciousness and Vaishnavism, right? This is mentioned at the very beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, right? The Nirmat Saranam Satam, right? Vyasadeva is describing those who will appreciate this supreme text of Srimad Bhagavatam. And he mentions specifically those who are free from envy, nirmatsar, free from envy. And what's the other side of that? What's the positive expression of freedom from envy? Means the tendency to glorify, to appreciate, right? So by avoiding criticism, avoiding that spirit of criticism and envy, then we can avoid going down, we can avoid making offenses to the Vaishnavas. But then on the other side, by entering into a positive spirit of appreciation for the Vaishnavas, then we can actually make progress, right? We can make advancement in that way. So it's something very central. It's not something we can escape from, right? The importance of Vaishnava appreciation, Vaishnava seva, all these things. And so, it's something that can trip us up when we see external faults that are troublesome or bothersome in different ways. And so here, Rupa Goswami is trying to help us make some inner adjustment. And he gives this very nice analogy of the Ganga, the holy waters of the Ganga. And for those of you who've been to India, you will have experienced that when you look at the Ganga, unfortunately, you do see unclean things. Sometimes you might even see a dead body floating in the Ganga. However, people here will wash their clothes, and well, maybe I won't even say all the things that happen in the Ganga. But materially speaking, it's not a very clean place in some parts. However, if we have any appreciation for the nature of spiritual substance, then we understand that the spiritual quality is not compromised. And you see here in India that despite the contamination that's so widespread in the Ganga, there's still so much faith in the purity of the Ganga. And everyone's using Ganga Jal. They even sell it in the post office. I came across that last year. I couldn't believe it. I thought, what a wonderful thing. And even in the post office in India, they're selling Ganga Jal for like 20 rupees or something. So there's still so much faith in the spiritual purity of Ganga water, despite some material contamination that may be there, right? And so similarly, when it comes to our fellow God brothers and God sisters, we try to have this type of vision. And, it doesn't mean that we have to be best friends with everyone. And some may have habits that are not good for us to be around. So we may, it's something our Gurudev said many times, we can respect Vaishnavas from a distance, if they have some bad habit or bad nature that is uninspiring for us or is disturbing our practice or our faith in some way, then we can respect them from a safe distance, but keep that mood of appreciation. And we can also pray to Guru and Vaishnava Mahaprabhu, like, please help me to have the proper vision. Right. There's a section in Revealed Truth where Srila Gurudev was discussing all these things. And he mentions, that we can pray. I think he quotes also on prayer of Bhaktivinoda Thakur saying, I'm very unfortunate. I'm not able to recognize the Vaishnava. So please, my Lord, reveal to me who is a Vaishnava, right? Because that's another point. Who are we we don't have the eyes to see. We don't have the eyes to see. We have our own prejudices and limited vision, limited understanding. So how can we actually recognize who is a Vaishnava, who is not a real Vaishnava? So we can pray, please reveal to me, Lord. Please, Gurudev, reveal to me who is a Vaishnava, who is good association for me, who is a real devotee on the path, and who is not such good associate. We can pray for that revelation to come to us, because it's not always straightforward, right? Okay, well, let's chant this verse. Jishte swabhava janite vapushascha dosher na prakritatvam yahabhakta janasya pashyat gangamba samna kalu budbuddha fena pankir brahma drivatvam apagachati nila dharmai. Do not consider devotees in this world to be mundane as a result of observing faults produced by their nature or in their body. The water of the Ganges never loses its spirit. The water of the Ganges never loses its nature as liquid spirit because of bubbles, foam, and mud, all of which are natural in water. And, it sounds simple enough, when we're discussing this and reading this, but in practice, it can actually be quite difficult, and I've seen over the years, that it can be a major stumbling block, and that it actually requires strong faith to be able to really practice this teaching. In a general sense, we may accept it, but then there may come a moment in your life where you're confronted with a situation. You're seeing a devotee behaving in an undesirable way, and it can be very difficult to accommodate, and it's very easy to slip into a mood of condemnation, right? And it's something that I've seen tear communities apart, where some members of the community are staunch in trying to maintain appreciation for that Vaishnava, and others are want to condemn them, cast them out. And I've seen cases of devotees who lose their faith in Krishna consciousness because they can't accommodate the undesirable behavior of certain Vaishnavas. So I would say it's a test that every practitioner has to face. And actually in every spiritual practice, and sometimes I'll say, there's a difference between what Christianity is and those who are practicing Christianity, and it's the same, it's the same with every religious practice, and what are the pure ideals of Vaishnavism, and who are the faulty persons attempting to practice that? Those are two separate things, and so we have to maintain faith, right, in what these high ideals are, what these high principles are. And we're very fortunate that in modern times, there are a handful of these pure exalted souls, who have perfectly illuminated the highest principles of what actual Vaishnavism is, right? Srila Govinda Maharaj, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, Srila Swami Maharaj, Prabhupada. Now we're all meditating on the glories of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Yesterday was his appearance day. Today we had a parikrama to the place where he started everything in Calcutta, that Ulta Danga, where the first preaching center was established. And so, we're very fortunate that in these modern times, there are these exalted Vaishnavas who are perfectly illuminating the highest ideals of this line. But we cannot expect that everyone is going to be like that. And so it is, as I said, I feel in my own experience, it is an important moment that our faith will be challenged, and some will be able to overcome that and go forward, and others will lose some interest and go a little off the path. And in Bhagavad Gita, there is that one verse, right, which is, it's a little dangerous, actually. It's in the 9th chapter, right? That api chet charo bhajate mama nananya bhak sador eva samantavya samyag yavasito. He saw that Krishna's boldly declaring there that even if a very wicked person, right? Durachar means a very wicked person, but then he adds an intensifier, sudurachar, means extremely wicked, degraded person. If they are serving me with exclusive devotion, they should be considered saintly because their resolve is perfect, right? Their resolve is perfect. Although they're still struggling with some mundane nature, they have actually offered themselves to me, and they are on that path, of coming to me and fully giving themselves to me. Now, it doesn't mean that, persons who have some degraded nature, that we will necessarily celebrate them and give them all honor in the world because of their, particular nature. They may even have to be, separated from the Vaishnava group if they have some some, particularly challenging nature, but we will keep some respect and appreciation in our heart. We don't know what is their relationship with the Lord. We don't know. In Revealed Truth, there's actually a very nice section where Srila Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj is talking about this. Let me see there's some very nice verses from the scriptures that he is discussing there. And he, one story he tells, some of you may be familiar with that story. So Gurudev is quoting this verse, sorry, this is a section of Revealed Truth. Srila Govinda Maharaj is quoting this verse from Upadeśāmṛta. And then quite extensively, he's discussing this topic, and quoting many nice verses. And some of you, well, I'm sure many of you have read that and have also heard this story, but we can remember it again, the incident with Srila Sridhar Maharaj, right? That we hear of this one prominent disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who, had actually done so much service for the preaching mission of Srila Saraswati Thakur, was like crucial in the development of the preaching mission, and he also was handling, the money and resources. And at a certain point, it came out that he was embezzling some of the funds of the mission in order to send some of his relatives to, for some learning, some educational purposes, sending them to some special school or something like that. And naturally, the God brothers who discovered this, they became outraged. They were up in arms about it. And many of them were approaching Srila Saraswati Thakur about this and complaining about this situation and requesting that this one Vaishnava is punished in some way. But Saraswati Thakur would not respond. He remained aloof from the matter and didn't do anything to correct or punish that Vaishnava in any way. And so meanwhile, these group of disciples are becoming more and more frustrated. They're not able to surrender to their guru's response to the situation. And eventually they recruit Srila Sridhar Maharaj to push their case to Saraswati Thakur. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, his nature is not to get involved in all these things. He's, as he's described himself and as we've seen in his conduct and his nature, he's aloof to all these, political management issues and so on. He's someone who is, deeply absorbed in the Siddhanta. And so he didn't want to become involved in this matter, but he's also very humble, and they pushed him so much, he finally felt that he could not say no, he could not refuse them. And so finally Srila Sridhar Maharaj agreed, and so he brought the matter to Srila Saraswati Thakur. And Saraswati Thakur, the other disciples, when they'd come to him, he hadn't even replied, he was silent on the matter. But when Srila Sridhar Maharaj came to him, he became very disappointed. And he said, even you, even you are like, I didn't expect that even you would become involved in this matter, that you would come to me about this. And I did not expect that. And then he gave, his take on the matter. And, there are different things that he said at that time. One thing that he said was, money is not an issue. He said, if necessary, we can throw buckets of money into the Ganga. This mission is not about money. And he also said that, this one disciple, he's done so much service for me, And he is so capable. He said, even if everybody leaves and only he remains with me, we can build everything again. We can build everything again. That's how valuable his service is, and that's how much I appreciate what he's done, And so in Saraswati Thakur's view, the service that this disciple had rendered was so valuable that he was ready to overlook if there was some little embezzlement going on, or he didn't want to see that. He just wanted to appreciate what he had done. And so the matter was left at that. And then 6 months later, we hear, let me see if I can find this verse. 6 months later, Srila Saraswati Thakur is in Madras, which is now Chennai, I believe. Previously, they had been perhaps in Calcutta. I'm just seeing if I can find this section here. So 6 months later, they're in, here it is, I found it. So 6 months later, they're in Madras. Saraswati Thakur is sitting in his room, reading Srimad Bhagavatam. He has some personal attendant there. Saraswati Thakur is reading Srimad Bhagavatam. He comes to a particular verse. He pauses and he tells his personal attendant to call Sridhar Maharaj. And so Sridhar Maharaj is brought to Saraswati Thakur's room. Saraswati Thakur points to this verse that he's just come to in Bhagavatam, and he tells Srila Sridhar Maharaj, here is the answer to your question. Here is the answer to your question. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj is puzzled. What is Guru Maharaj referring to? What question? What question? 6 months later. And then Saraswati Thakur reads the verse to him. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj understands. He's referring back to their discussion so many months before. So this is the verse, beautiful verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. Swaparamulam bhajata priyasya chaktanya bhavasya hari paresha vikarmaya chot patitam katanchid dunoti sarvam hridi sani ishtaha. And I'll read Srila Govinda Maharaj's explanation of this verse. The meaning is that it is not necessary to apply material law to dedicated devotees of the Lord. It is possible that dedicated devotees may do something wrong. Their mundane body and mental position are not always in a liberated state. It is possible that they may sometimes be polluted by the illusory environment. But because they are dedicated, because they are serving the Lord and chanting his holy name, the Lord is living within their heart, and the Lord will clean their heart. The Lord will remove their offenses by his divine influence. If they are dedicated to Krishna, then he will take care of everything. It is not necessary for a dedicated devotee to do any prayaschit, atonement. So, Swapadamulam bhajata priyasya, someone who is dear to the Lord, who is surrendered to the Lord's lotus feet, who has developed the nature of giving up everything for the service of the Lord. Vikarma yachot patitam katanchit. If they should somehow or other commit some sinful action, dunoti sarvam hri sani vishta, the Lord himself will purify them. The Lord himself will clean them. And so we will not emphasize that, we don't have to, and we don't have to take it upon ourselves to punish them or correct them. Of course, this is a difficult thing to understand, because this is talking about surrendered souls, right? This is talking about a high category of souls. But this principle is there, that if one is engaged in the service of the Lord, they're already doing the most purifying thing. They're already doing the most purifying thing. And in general, we will try to see other practitioners like that. We don't have to be overzealous and trying to correct every little thing that's wrong in our God family, but we will think the Lord is taking care. The Lord is taking care. He is managing. We don't have to let that, especially if anyone has some role in management, this can be a tricky thing to deal with, right? Because I heard Śrī Śrī Upadeśāmṛta made some comment that a good manager, a good devotee manager, will have a certain element of detachment in the way that they do things, right? In simple terms, we can say they're not control freaks. The opposite of a control freak. And that they may even be a little slack in how they plan and arrange things. So they're leaving some space for the Lord's will to come through. And they're also trusting that the Lord will manage things as He wants, right? Śrī Śrī Upadeśāmṛta also expressed this very beautiful vision that the view of a Vaishnava manager will be that, not that like they have a bunch of individuals who they're supposed to manage and direct, and this needs to be done and that needs to be done, and they're like under my control or whatever. But rather, Śrī Śrī Upadeśāmṛta says their vision will be that every devotee in the temple has their own relationship with the Lord. And we don't even know what their service is, right? That is something that will emerge. That is something that will come out, right? That will evolve in the course of their service life. It will be revealed. And so rather than the manager having like a to-do list, and a checkbox, this needs to be done, that needs to be done, this person's gonna do that, they're rather trying to understand, what does Krishna want from this person? And yes, I may engage them in some service here and there, but of course, but I'm open to what is their unique relationship with Krishna. What service does Krishna want from this devotee? So there won't be this rigid approach and controlling approach to how the service is carried out, right? But rather, I'm just like a middleman. They have their own transaction going on, and I'm just a humble, middleman in between their relationship, right? I'm not trying to, put myself in the center there, but I'm just in the middle. I'm trying to support the transaction a little bit until it's time for me to withdraw, right? So, but we haven't read Sridhar Maharaj's explanation yet. This verse, let's find it. Page 123. Okay, just trying to come to the right page here. Here it is. Okay, so Illumination by Srila Bhakti-Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj. Here, according to the teachings of Srimad Mahaprabhu, Srila Rupa Goswami says that we should not be very eager to find any defect in a pure devotee. The purifying capacity of Ganges water cannot be identified with the water that we see externally to be the Ganges. That water may be filthy, foamy, or muddy, but it still has the capacity to purify. Why? What is it that can purify? Is it water? No, there's another aspect. And if that is analyzed, ultimately we will see the order of the Lord It is his order that Ganges water will purify. So the purifying power comes from his will. His will is backing that. We should try to find the absolute backing everywhere. The water of the Ganges can purify even if bubbles or mud can be found within it. The bubbles and mud cannot stand in the way of purification. So in a devotee who is meant only for the good of the universe, if we find some mud or bubbles, that they are angry, blind, or lame, and we attribute that to their inner self, then we are losers. We commit offense. Arrogance may be of two types: arrogance towards the higher and arrogance towards the lower. With goodwill, if a mother seems to be arrogant in dealing with her child, then we know that such arrogance is for the good of the child. Such a parent arrogance should not be considered real arrogance, or the arrogance of a passerby who comes to punish the child. A devotee may be seen to become angry for minor causes, but that anger should not be classified as ordinary anger. That anger will do good to the person with whom they are angry. Krodh bhakta dveshi jane. Anger is for those who are inimical to devotees. This is the qualification. So a devotee cannot be judged independently. So, there were two ways of understanding and applying this principle, right? That, there's one level, and this is what Śrī Śrī Maharaj is talking about here, where a Vaishnava or even the Lord may appear to have a fault. Here, anger is given as an example, but it's not actually a fault, right? So that's a bit of a different discussion, right? That it's just our limited vision that's perceiving it as a fault, but it's not actually a fault. But then there's another category, those who actually do have faults, but we will be generous in our vision because they are connected with the Lord. They're going through a process of purification, right? So these are different ways in which we will understand and apply this principle of being cautious, right, in denouncing or criticizing others. Srimad Mahaprabhu was angry sometimes. When Mahaprabhu was going on with kirtan behind closed doors, a brahmachari who was drinking only milk, taking nothing else, wanted to enter. I must be considered the purest. I drink only milk and nothing else. So why have they closed the doors against me? When at last the doors were opened, he exclaimed, why was the door closed against me? Mahaprabhu showed anger at that time and replied, to drink milk is no qualification for Krishna consciousness. A tantric once put some wine and other things at the door of Srivas Thakur during the night to ridicule him. These are like showing he's like a Kali worshipper, like, because Srivas Thakur is known as a pure devotee of Lord Krishna. So trying to make some, appearance that Srivas Thakur is a hypocrite, showing himself in one way, but he's not. So in the morning, Srivas opened his door, saw all these nasty things, wine, meat, and other items, and went to his good neighbors. Please see here how I am a tantric. Every night with the help of this meat and wine, I worship the goddess Kali. So rather than, trying to blame someone else for setting him up, he's owning it. He's owning the situation, and he's welcoming anyone who wants to denounce him, even if it's on false grounds. This is the mood of a true Vaishnava. We hear Śrīla Sridhar Maharaj when he heard, because unfortunately at a certain period, there was a whole, how can we say, there was a certain institution that was publicly denouncing Śrī Śrī Maharaj because they're afraid they will lose some of their members, leave their mission and go to Śrī Śrī Maharaj's mission. So they made like a public ban on anyone going to visit Śrī Śrī Maharaj. It's crazy. It's hard to believe, but these things happened. But we hear, and they had some list of things that they made to criticize Śrī Śrī Maharaj, and we hear that when Śrī Śrī Maharaj heard about those things, he said, he says, I can say so many worse things about myself, much worse things, what is that, This is the Vaishnava mood. And we also heard another thing, it's very inspiring thing that Śrī Śrī Maharaj said when he found out that Goswami Maharaj, Bhakti Siddhir Goswami Maharaj, was recording, right? There, because there were some moments where some confidential things were discussed, and Śrī Śrī Maharaj is speaking frankly about the misbehavior of Vaishnavas and other missions. And he didn't realize that he was being recorded, right? He was discussing confidential matters and speaking frankly. Then Śrī Śrī Maharaj found out he was being recorded. And he told Goswami, you've been recording everything, and he was quite surprised. And Goswami Maharaj, he said, if you want, I won't distribute it. I will keep this private, just for myself. And then Śrī Śrī Maharaj, he said, no, you can distribute it. And if anyone will criticize me for anything I have said, he said, then that will be for my own purification. That will be for my own purification. That was his expression. That is the real mood of a real Vaishnava. It's very, very eye-opening and very inspiring. If there is anything wrong in me, if I've said anything wrong or done anything wrong, then it will be purified. It will be cleared by others denouncing my speech. That was how he responded to that. No hiding away or criticizing others or anything like that, but open like the sky. So the local gentleman felt very disturbed and wondered, who is the rogue that has done all these things? When Mahaprabhu was informed, he was very much enraged. That man must suffer. He was Chapal Gopal, and he contracted leprosy within a few days. Later, when Mahaprabhu returned to Navadvip, after taking sannyas, Chapal Gopal fell at the Lord's feet. So he had like a quick reaction to his offense to Srivas Thakur. And then, it was for a few years, this Chapal Gopal was suffering with his disease. And then when Mahaprabhu came back to Navadvip for the first time after taking sannyas, and the only time he came after sannyas, then he begged for forgiveness from Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu forgave him and he became a devotee. In this world, anger sometimes is shown by the incarnation of God himself and sometimes by devotees also. But that is not harmful. It is for the good of the person. So the excitement found in a devotee should be taken in the proper way and not as ordinary anger. Satam ninda namna paramam aparadam vitanute, from the Padma Purana. In the beginning of taking the name, the first warning is there. Be aware of your association with the sadhus. They are your well-wishers to the utmost. Really, they are the agents that carry good things to you. Be very alert and do not commit any wrong against them. Do not misunderstand them. Their goodness is beyond your understanding. They love you so much. You cannot love yourself that much because they see you as the property of their Lord. How beautiful. They see you as the property of their Lord. I remember when I first read that line, it touched my heart so much, you know. You cannot love yourself that much because they see you as the property of their Lord. This is the thing, like when one awakens with love for the Lord, then that is a love that spreads to everyone and everything, because everything belongs to Krishna, everything belongs to the Lord, everything's a part of the Lord's creation. And so when we connect with that infinite reservoir of love, with that embodiment of love, then naturally our own love expands, and we're also feeling love for everyone and everything connected with that Lord. So it is the highest and purest and most profound type of love that the pure Vaishnavas have. They see you as the property of their Lord. From that standpoint, they love you, right? Love in this world tends to be polluted in some way, right? And I remember, you know, when I was very young, when I was a teenager, that was one of the things that really struck me. You know, when I looked around me, I felt that love in this world is usually conditional, right? And it may be in ways that we're not even aware of. But it's usually present in our relationships. I love you because, you know, you like the same things that I like. I love you because you look this way. I love you because you do things for me, right? It's difficult to find pure love. The mother of the love for their child, that is of a different category. You know? We hear Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada said, that's the purest type of love that you'll find in this world, the love that a mother has for their child, purest type of love, completely selfless, you know, nothing expected in return, unconditional, selfless love. But that was something that struck me, you know, when I was young, that generally relationships in this world, they're contaminated in some way. And it's, you know, less or more in different cases. But generally, there's something there. There's some condition. I love you because of this or because of that, right? But when I looked at our Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj, I felt, no, this love is of a different type, you know, is completely unconditional. He's loving me as a jivatma, as a spirit soul, and as Krishna Das, a servant of Krishna and property of Krishna, as Srila Śrī Maharaj is saying here. They're seeing us as lovers and servants of the Lord, property of the Lord, part of the Lord's creation. They're loving us from that standpoint. And so it's not that they're loving us because they can get something from us or because of some particular quality we have or thing that we can do. They're loving us from this very absolute, unconditional standpoint. Oh, you are the Lord's own. You are the Lord's Nija Jan. You are the Lord's own person, and I love you because of that. And that's something that is absolute, right? Everything else can change, but that will never change. Our constitutional nature, Jiver, Srupa Hoy, Krishna, Nityadas, that will never change. That will never change. So from this very absolute, eternal, lasting standpoint, the pure Vaishnava is giving their love, is extending their love to all souls. So it is the most powerful type of love. That love is most high in quality and quantity. So always be careful and do not commit any wrong towards them. Jadi Vaishnav aparad utte hati mata upadeva chindeta shuki jai pata. If any great crime somehow comes up against them, then the whole thing will be demolished because the Lord will be enraged. So this verse is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, and some of you may be familiar with this expression that the offenses to Vaishnavas, they're described as the mad elephant offense, right? Because in that section, of Charitamrita, Mahaprabhu is describing how the vine of devotion grows, the seed of devotion, how it sprouts and grows into a flowering vine. And so then he's also discussing different obstacles that come up in our nurturing of that seed and that little sprout. And the most serious one is the appearance of wild animals, or can be simple garden pests, but this is a Bengali analogy, Indian analogy. So elephants are used. An elephant may come into your garden and uproot your tender little sprout and destroy it completely, taking it up from the root. So a serious offense to a Vaishnava, a serious envy or criticism of Vaishnava can destroy our devotional life. Just like that preacher will destroy our garden patch. So this is such a serious danger in our spiritual life. And for that reason, our Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj, he emphasized so much these principles of humility, tolerance, and respect, right? As described in the 3rd verse of Shikshashtaka, right? Trinadapi sunichena, Troiva sahishnu amanina manatena kirtani sadahadi. This is protecting us from the spirit of offense, regulating our mind and our behavior by Vaishnava principles and protecting us from this serious danger to our spiritual life. So if any great crime somehow comes up against them, then the whole thing will be demolished because the Lord will be enraged. You are kicking those who come to give you the greatest wealth. What is this? You are the most wretched. We must be careful about the first type of namaparad. So this is also namaparad. This is offense to the holy name. In the Padma Purana, right, these 10 offenses to the holy name are described. And the first one is this, sadhu ninda, criticism of the sadhus. There is a verse by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Vaishnava Charitra, Sarvara Pavitra, Ye Ninde Himsa Kodi, Bhakati Vinod Na Sambhashe Tade, Take Sada Mona Dodi. This is from a song of Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the songbook Kalyan Kalpataru. The character of a Vaishnava is always very pure. If anyone out of motive cruelly speaks ill of them, then Bhakti Vinod will not talk with them. He will keep silent. If anyone comes to abuse a Vaishnava, then we will show full non-cooperation. That's a very nice way to put it. If anyone comes to abuse a Vaishnava, then we will show full non-cooperation. This reminds us of Gandhi's, right? Srila Sridhar Maharaj is, I think, making a reference, that non-cooperation movement of Gandhi. Right? Still, we sometimes go to judge the cases of others. Why should they receive causeless mercy? They have so many defects and disqualifications. Why should they be accepted or given any chance? Yet at the same time, we pray for ourselves. Oh Lord, don't come to judge me. Then I will have no hope. Please grant me your grace, my Lord. Then I can have the hope of approaching you. I can only make progress towards you if you will become very lenient towards me and not find fault in me. But at the same time, in the same breath, we wonder, why should this man who is disqualified get any grace? Why should he get any mercy or affection? That is hypocritical for us and causes a great deal of difficulty within us. It is suicidal. Such is Vaishnava Ninda, Vaishnava Aparad. So this is a type of envy, right? That can come within us when we see others getting mercy, right? And we may think, I'm doing better than them, I should get more mercy, or I should get more attention. This is a type of envy. We should celebrate the mercy that others receive. There's another talk of Śrī Śrī Maharaj where he says that if we have this type of mood, he says our name will be struck from the book of Sharanagata. Our name will be struck from the book, right? If we cannot tolerate that someone else is getting mercy and we feel we are not getting mercy and we deserve mercy more than them, that is not a mood of surrender. We will lose our place in that world of Sharanagati. The Lord will gradually purify those that are accepted by him, yet we are very eager to point out faults in them. This is very dangerous for our own progress. It is suicidal. For our own case, we want something higher, but in the case of others, we cannot tolerate the same behavior of the Lord. That is a very difficult position. Generally, it is this that is the basis of Vaishnava Aparad. We give much attention to the difficulties still left in those who have been accepted by the Lord and are being gradually purified by him. Very particularly, those difficulties come to our attention. And what is the result? The result is that those difficulties are transferred to us. Right? This is another thing that Śrī Śrī Maharaj has given caution about, that if we are very focused on criticizing others, he says it's like chewing poison. When you chew poison, you'll absorb it yourself, right? And so when we chew on the faults of others, we will absorb those within ourselves. This is the reality of experience in this line. If we mark especially the fault of another devotee, that fault will be transferred to us. It happens. In my experience, and in the scriptures also, I've seen this. So we must be very careful, generally, not to make any remark about the practices and activities of other Vaishnavas. Only in the case when one is empowered by the Supreme can this be done, as in the case of a guru with his disciples. A guru with a guardian, sympathetic eye can detect and mark the defects of his disciples to help to correct and remove them. There must be some affection of the heart within this, and not any jealousy or anything of that type. With goodwill, a guru wants to remove faults as an affectionate guardian. So from the position of a Shiksha Guru or Diksha Guru, one may detect the faults of students of this line and help them sincerely to get out of them. So this is something that Madhurya Leela brought up in one of our recent meetings, right? That, there is a case for observing faults, but it must be done with the proper mood, right? From a mood of affectionate correction, of education, and so on. Free from a spirit of judgment, envy, criticism, and these things. So that is actually necessary for our progressive life in Krishna consciousness. But it has to come from the right person with the right mood at the right time. But otherwise, if we are attracted by those faults, they will come to us and we will have to pay for that. It is a practical thing, and it is based on reason and scriptural advice as well. So we must be careful. We are warned in the Vaishnava literature that we must be careful about Vaishnava Aparad. It comes either from the spirit of competition or jealousy. It is very detrimental to our spiritual life. So we all must be very careful about that. We should not allow ourselves to become especially attracted by any defect in another. If it comes to our eye, we may refer it to a higher authority. I doubt that this is the case with that gentleman. If we make too much of it, either in opposition or otherwise, it will be transferred to us. We will feel I am being devoured. My mind is coming in touch with that fault and devouring it as food. In this way, a critic becomes contaminated. Anyhow, a fault enters into the mental system of the critic, and it must get its satisfaction there as a reaction. So, as there are trade secrets, so this is a secret in devotional life. We must be aware of it, and we must be very careful about such practical difficulties on the path of our life. Let's see. It is quite a bit longer. Maybe we'll stop there for today then. Oh, this is quite a long one. And this text is collected right from different talks, and it is a point that has been emphasized in the talks of Śrīla Śrīla Maharaj. So naturally there's a lot of content. Okay, well, maybe we'll stop here for today. We have a lot to meditate upon and what we've just heard. So wonderful to go through this, and grateful to all of you for joining and being a part of this. And also wanted to mention Nanda Krishna, who is here, and he's about to travel. He's just about to travel back to America, and he's been on a long pilgrimage here in India, doing a lot of seva and Govardhan and Navadvip, Ekachakra, and here we've had some parikrama, visiting holy sites in Calcutta. Now he's going to do some seva in USA with Janardhan Maharaj and other Vaishnavas. So everyone, please give your good wishes upon him. And I also want to express my appreciation for all of his service and support for all this time. And he's doing so much service, but a lot of the online content, like the reels they're all being published on my account, but he's doing all of it, so he's doing so much with so much enthusiasm for Mahaprabhu's preaching mission.
Ananda Krishna Prabhu ki
Jai.
Happy travels
Jai.
here.
So you'll all be seeing him there in USA very soon. Okay, well, we can close for today. Any last comments from anyone before we end? Okay, and I'm heading south again, and I'll be continuing with our meetings over these next few months. So I look forward to that. Jai Śrīla Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Śrīla Bhakti Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, all the assembled devotees, sincere seekers ki Jai, Shri Hari Sankirtan ki Jai, Nitai Gaur. Haribo. Have a
Vishaka Maharani ki Jai.
Somya, Sham, and Vijay are here, and thank you for joining. Very beautiful group. Jai Śrīla Gurudev.
Hare Krishna.
See you all next time.